Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan and I help freelancers grow their businesses. A very big thank you to my wonderful, gorgeous, intelligent, sweet, caring friend, Charisse, who suggested this very important topic. At the time of this recording, we are just about to head into October, which means two things: Halloween and bullying. October is National Bullying Prevention Month. But it's always a good time to talk about bullying because it's always happening. You really need to know how to navigate this as a freelancer, especially because most freelancers work home alone. So stick with me on this. I've talked before about how when people are hiding behind their computers or their phones, they suddenly become very brave and they say things online that they would never say in person to your face. And unfortunately, this extends to the online workplace, especially considering that since the pandemic, so many companies have shifted to a work from home experience. Regardless, if you're a freelancer, then you were probably already working from home, which means you might be a little more vulnerable to online bullying. Some research tells us, I'm going to read this exactly so that I don't mess it up, 10% of workers report being bullied by email, phone, or social media. Other more recent research says that that number is closer to 43%. That's how many remote workers report workplace bullying via video calls and email. I'll drop the source of these statistics in the description below if you want to read the full article. I feel like we're hesitant to call out bullying these days because, especially for the younger generations, we are already accused of being overly sensitive snowflakes. So we're hesitant to say, you're being mean, you are being a bully, because we worry that it's going to make us sound weak. In reality, it takes a very brave, emotionally intelligent person to call out bullying when they see it. So you should. There are a few things I want to talk about here. First, we need to clear up this misconception that when a client pays you, they have the right to do whatever they want. This is false. They are not paying you to be their emotional punching bag. You are providing a service, and in exchange, you receive money. That is the relationship. Anything outside of those parameters is off limits. A client once told me, as long as I keep paying you, I can say whatever I want to you. I still can't believe that happened. I was like, no, my friend, no, you cannot. Second, very often with clients who end up being bullies, there are red flags that appear earlier on. And if you can learn to spot those red flags, then you can kind of nip the problem in the bud and avoid those clients in the first place. So let's talk about a few red flags. If they are rude or abrasive before you sign them, it's going to get worse, not better. If they are saying nasty things about other people on their team to you, that's a red flag. If they're talking down to you, do you hear that thunder? If they're talking down to you in any way, that's a red flag. This is a tough one for a lot of freelancers and clients to understand because they don't always realize that they are partners. This is a partnership. It is not an employee-employer relationship. The client is not your boss. If you see red flags earlier on, then you really need to pause and think about if this is someone you really want to work with. Because like I said, typically these things get worse, not better. Now, I'm not saying that these relationships can't be salvaged. Sometimes they can, but you're going to have to be willing to have maybe awkward conversations that will require you to stick up for yourself, which understandably can be really hard. Let's do an example. Years ago, I had a client, and from the word go, there were just red flags everywhere. I'm a writer. I sell blogging and SEO services. One of the first things he told me was that every writer he ever worked with was a complete idiot. Those were the words he used. He said that the work was always garbage. He didn't use the word garbage, he used another word, which I will not repeat. They were stupid, they were idiots. Yikes, not okay. There were plenty of other ways he could have said the same thing, but in a much more professional way. He could have said that he found it challenging to find a writer that he liked working with, or the quality wasn't there, or it wasn't up to his standards. There are so many better ways to word those sentiments. So I explained to him that my work is always data-driven, it's based on keyword research, and I'm always tracking the results. So whatever is working or not working, I will know before he does. And based on what I find in my analytics, I'll adjust accordingly if needed. And I also said to him, I am always open to constructive feedback via email. This was me trying to gently set him straight, set my boundaries, and tell him what I am and am not okay with. I also gave him my preferred method of communication, email. You're not going to be calling me up at all hours of the day, telling me I'm an idiot, telling me you don't like my work. You can send constructive feedback through email. Okay, so this is just one way you can try to establish a healthier, more positive relationship with a client that you're about to start working with. Do not be so desperate for money that you're willing to work with anyone, okay? You are not desperate. You are never desperate. Desperation comes from fear. It comes from a fear of lack. It comes from uncertainty. It comes from imposter syndrome. You are not desperate. Okay, so we've talked about how to establish new relationships with clients in a more positive way, but what if it's an established relationship, a client that you've already been working with and you're noticing some bullying starting to happen? How you need to express this to the client is that bullying is detrimental to them and not just you, which is the truth. This is how we get away from "he hurt my feelings," which is a totally valid feeling, by the way, but it's not going to speak to the client. We're getting away from that and we're moving more towards "this is not conducive to a successful relationship." You want to come up here, baby girl? You can come up here. Let's go through an example. So I have a client in the medical field. It's medical writing. So there's always someone that checks my work, which is to be expected. Never had any issues, but one day there was a new woman who started reviewing my work, and she was ruthless. She was so mean. She would leave all of her comments and track changes in caps, like yelling at me. She would say things like, "No, no, no, this is all wrong. Why would you ever say that? This doesn't make any sense." And on and on and on. Dang, girl. Two problems here. One, you're being nasty and it's not necessary. And two, it doesn't fix anything. The feedback was not constructive, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The first time this happened, I was mad. I was very mad. So I walked away for a few hours, simmered down, and then came back to revisit it. And I was asking her questions, trying to get more information. Can you tell me what you don't like about this? How would you prefer I word this? I was trying to get more information to fix whatever the problem was. I didn't know what the problem was. She didn't tell me. There were times when I could tell she was leaving a nasty comment just to be nasty. So I would respond and say, "I wrote it this way because X, Y, and Z." And I left it at that. After this happened a few times, my point of contact for the company, who was very nice, he actually reached out and he apologized for her. And I told him, which I know he already knew, I said, "I'm always open to constructive feedback. This is how I improve." And I said, "I want to provide work that's up to your standard, but bullying is not okay. Nor is it necessary, nor is it productive. We do not entertain bullying." So looping back to what I said earlier, this was me telling the client, this behavior is not helping anybody. It's not helping me, and it's certainly not helping you. It's in their best interest to learn how to communicate with me more effectively, or I can't do my job. You don't have to, nor should you, respond to bullying with bullying. You don't fight fire with fire. That won't solve the problem, and also it's not good for you. But I do want to establish this distinction that standing up for yourself is not bullying, okay? Let's loop back to what I was talking about earlier in terms of constructive criticism or feedback versus bullying with one note. Feedback that isn't constructive doesn't automatically equate to bullying, okay? Some clients just aren't good at leaving helpful feedback, but that doesn't mean that they're being mean. So you want to be able to separate those two things. There's a big difference between, "Why would you say this? This makes no sense," and "I'd prefer we word it this way because X, Y, and Z." The first one doesn't help you, the freelancer, do your job better. It exists only to offend you. Whereas the second statement communicates what the client wants you to do differently and why. If a client is being a bully rather than being constructive, you can say something like, "I'm happy to make revisions, but I need more constructive feedback. Here are a few questions to consider. What don't you like and why? What do you like and why?" These questions will almost force the client to get really clear on what they want from you, and it's also going to make it easier for you to give them what they want. If you make this attempt and they still don't meet you halfway, then you can say something like, "I really want to improve this, but I need more constructive feedback. Is there someone else I can maybe talk to?" If they're yelling at you, as in, typing in all caps, you can say, typing in all caps isn't necessary. Please stop. It's that simple. I know it's not easy, but it's simple. Sometimes the client will back down. They might not be used to someone putting them in their place. So when you do, they're like, whoa, they're not so brave anymore. I had that happen with a client. No one would stand up to him because he can be kind of scary. But I hit a breaking point where I was like, okay, I'm either gonna, cut the client loose, or I'm gonna stand up to him and see if I can salvage this. I did stand up to him, and we've been great ever since. So sometimes that's all it takes. And if ultimately you can't resolve it, then you might need to consider walking away. I had one client years ago, I think I talked about them in this video, and I tried so hard because I really wanted it to work. It wasn't going to work. I wasn't going to fix him. This guy had severe anger issues, and a few months in, I walked away, and I'm so glad I did. 0 regrets. He was a bully. I want to leave you with this, and I know that this is really hard. I still struggle with it myself sometimes, but it's really important. Allowing a bully, a mean client, to make you angry or upset, every feeling is valid, but don't let yourself be angry for too long. Don't waste your precious energy on it. Get mad or upset, let yourself feel it, because like I said, your feelings are valid, and then let it go. The next step is, can I resolve this and how? When this happens to me, when I run into a bully, which thankfully isn't too often anymore, here's what I remind myself. Bullies are usually hurting. Something is wrong in their life. It takes a hurting person to hurt someone. So I wish them well, I send them love, and I let it go. I will not carry that anger with me, and you shouldn't either. You deserve better. If you think you might be dealing with a bully client and you don't really know how to handle it, I have a LinkedIn group for freelancers where I will do my best to support you, even if that just means being your cheerleader. The link to that group is below. You are never alone. There is so much hate in the world. We are a very messed up planet. Don't contribute to the problem. Be part of the solution. Stand up for yourself, stand up to bullying, but keep it professional and expect respect. And lastly, try to sprinkle a little love everywhere you go, even to the people who you think don't deserve it. Because very often, they're the ones who need it the most. Right? Right. Thanks for hanging out with me. This video was very important, and thanks again to my friend Charisse for suggesting it. If you have any questions or you want to join the conversation, just drop a comment below, and I'll see you next time.